You're listening to the SojuSessions, episode 80 on the SojuTalk Nation podcast feed. I'm your host, Crispy, also known as Crispy Wonton or simply just Anton. And on today's show, the better half of Jay, he was on the show 2 weeks ago. So now we've got his lovely wife and mother to a wonderful daughter, Gidget. Jess, the one and only, joins the show, and she gives her perspective on how they met, their bond, and how they grew through Kpop, finding the SojuTalk podcast, and we get into SEULGI, 28 Reasons, an album discussion. We get into it. Jess absolutely kills it. She's got amazing references to back in the day for all the old folks, for all the 90-year-olds like myself. I felt like I was a person lost out of time in the best way, where I was experiencing 90s, the 2000s, all with SEULGI's music and Jess's really wonderful analysis of how it all came together. So big shout out to Jess for the deep dive discussion there. One final note before we get started. The SojuTalk Nation podcast has been a great touch point for me as far as getting to know people, connecting with people from around the world, talking to them one-on-one. But, life happens and things change, things get busy, things happen. And for the time being, the show is going on a hiatus. We're taking a break. We don't have I don't have a set time to return yet, but I think now's a good time to kind of ride off into the sunset and reset, refresh, kind of find a way to ground myself in other things, whether that's new interest, friends, family, loved ones, and really just find a new direction while still enjoying K-pop on my own time, but hopefully, coming back to it at some point. Gonna take a bit of a break. So thank you everyone who's ever been on the show, who's ever contributed in any way. Special thanks to OP and Koala for being there from the start. Special thanks to everyone in the community channel that has left an amazing comment, a funny joke, a witty quip, a fun reference to what Warren has said. It's been a crazy 2 years. Over 130 episodes in that time. Are there 132 weeks in that time? I have no clue. There are some weeks where I drop 2 or 3 episodes at a time, and I love doing it. I love talking to people. I love getting to know their stories. But I think for me, that was a good time to take a break. So thank you everyone for being here. I will return eventually. But you guys are great. You guys are amazing. Be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. Sometimes in life there is a moment of clarity and a moment of perspective taking that allows me to be grateful for all my experiences and all the people that I've come across. That includes all of you, whether you are a regular guest on the show, have been on once, or have just left a nice comment here and there. You're very important and you're very special, and can't thank you enough. So that's it for now. And big shout out to Doug, Warren, and Anita for always supporting me and the show and being amazing people, for just giving us a space to interact and be with one another. Because if I've learned anything about the past 2 years in pandemic, it's we need each other, right? It's these experiences don't matter if you don't share them in some kind of way and share that story with someone else. So yeah. All right. We're gonna get into it. Really fun conversation. Coming up, my chat with Jess on SEULGI with 28 Reasons on the Soju Sessions. Joining SojuSessions. This is our first husband and wife tag team episodes. So, we had the wonderful Jay on a few weeks ago, and we've got to have his better half, the one and only Jess. Welcome to the show. How's it going, Jess?
Thank you. It's going good.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting to have you. Jay spoke so lovingly about your origin story together. As a pair and through music and all of your adventures and with K-pop. So, I had to get your side of the story. I had to talk to the source of everything. So let's start with your K-pop origin story. When did you first start listening and what are your first memories of K-pop?
Let's see. I first started listening shortly after we had our daughter, Gidget. We obviously wanted her to learn Korean as well. Jay speaks Korean. His family speaks Korean. I do not at all, and am terrible at trying to learn it. When he tells me, I'm like, what is this? Which letter sound are you making? And I just did not have an ear for it at all. So we thought, what better way to get her familiar with the sound so she's not stuck like I am early on by exposing her to the music so she can more naturally learn those sounds. So I think she was only like a month or two old when we started. Just in the background, always had YouTube on with some K-pop. So when Jay first started playing it, he hadn't really been listening to it for a while either. So the first tracks he pulled up were older tracks. Wasn't quite the intro I was expecting, I guess, just because they were a little older. So we listened to some like Girls' Generation, H.O.T., who else did he pull up? Super Junior. I don't remember the band that does G. Like, that was one of the first videos we watched. So I was like, okay, this is interesting, but, I wasn't quite vibing with it yet. But luckily YouTube just keeps playing and keeps bringing up new stuff. So it started bringing up some newer stuff too. So then we were kind of on track with what was more current at that time. We ended up listening to a lot of BTS, who this was back in 2018. So they were big already, but not over here as much. So that was interesting. It pulled in a lot of Big Bang. I really like Big Bang, so that was cool. Gidget got obsessed early on with BTS. Like, when the little big hit little intro song would play before a video, she would stop whatever she was doing and look at the screen, even though it took her a lot of effort to move her head at that point because it's so large.
The jingle, right? It's so infectious.
Yes, the little that came on. She loved that. It was kind of like how most toddlers react to the Cocomelon intro, where it just suddenly they set up and notice what's going on. So that's kind of how we got into it as a family, and it was definitely my first exposure to it. I hadn't really listened to any K-pop before. I think the only thing I had ever heard was Gangnam Style, because you couldn't not hear that. So that was how we got into it, I guess.
Well, first of all, award for the coolest parents of the past 5 years. I would say we're just going to give a nice little round 5-year window there, because that is an amazing way to incorporate language and development with your daughter, with something so fun and universally accessible. And YouTube is amazing. Shout out to YouTube for just having the infinite library of media and, spinning off something that is, originally for entertainment with music as far as K-pop, and then the visual components of music videos, and then just allowing that to be your Korean language teacher for Gidget. So amazing. And the Korean language teacher for you, I'm assuming you pick things up along the way. So as you were kind of exploring new K-pop and things were starting to, be of interest to you, like songs that really caught your attention, what were some familiar notes, sounds, vocal tones, or just like anything that you can kind of pick out as to kind of that shift in you finding interest in K-pop? I know you talked about BTS, but what was it about music at that time that you're like, oh, that's really familiar, I can connect with this a little bit more than something from 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
I think the main difference was some of the, and I'm not knocking any of the older K-pop at all, and now that like I'm more familiar with it as a genre, I can enjoy it. It's less jarring to me, but I mean, a lot of the older stuff was really saccharine sweet, really poppy, and it didn't have as much other musical stylings incorporated in it, which I feel like K-pop currently does. Like you have a lot more R&B, you have some EDM, you have some rap, you've got a little bit of everything in there. So I think they were a little more accessible to me for the newer stuff.
Yeah, OG K-pop is very specific in its sound. I think for me, so G, you mentioned, was my very first K-pop thing I ever experienced. I think at that point in my life, I was looking for something a little cheesy, a little over the top. I mean, I watched anime, so I was I wanted more like weirdness in my media. So G made sense. But as I kind of explored other music and other groups, Big Bang and 21 were like a really big part of my 2012 and 13 range of K-pop. And then I took a break for a bit until about 2017. But by that time, the music is very similar to how you experienced it, right? Where there's a lot of variety, there's a lot more familiar Western sounds, but still, keeping a lot of the tropes of K-pop, kind of like the big flourishes and everything. So you did mention like R&B and hip hop. What are your favorite like K-pop groups, artists that do fall into the more hip hop and R&B realm? I've got a couple, so I'm gonna see if we align here.
I think that's something I probably need to explore more. It's interesting, like outside of K-pop, I don't really listen to much hip hop or rap. I'm a lot more punk, metal, like coming from a completely different world there, and singer-songwriter stuff. So that kind of lends itself to it. But the stuff I gravitate towards more now tend to really incorporate more of that like K-pop version of hip hop. So like BTS obviously has a rap line. I really like Stray Kids. They've got their guys. Big Bang, obviously. And it's not just that they have those in those songs. It's my favorite songs of the groups tend to be the more rap heavy songs, or when they do solo stuff, or like not side projects, but like separate tracks where it's just the guys that are more rap focused. Those tend to be my favorites. So I think that's definitely an area that I can look into more. So if you have any recommendations, let me know.
100%. What's your favorite Big Bang song or song from Big Bang, GD, Tang, Pop? Jess song has some fire solo songs.
I like all of them. I love all of them. Geez, what would be my favorite? I also may not come up with the names because
you can
sometimes they're not English words. I'm trying to think more videos. One of the ones we first listened to a lot. Gosh, what is this song? I can remember the video of it. Come on. It starts in the beginning with like G-Dragon. He's wearing some like plasticky suit. There's like a whole bunch of scene changes. TOP's kind of Joker-esque dressed in one. It like does not sound like a lot of the other Big Bang songs. Gosh, what is that song? I also can't think of the sound of it right now. I'm trying to remember which one, but that was one of the first ones we got really hooked on. It actually played at Gidget's first birthday in our like music playlist for the background, and I can't think of what it's called. It's definitely not an English word, so that's probably why.
Yeah, I got to go back to it because I actually did a Big Bang deep dive a month ago. So I think I'm picturing the music video. I just can't come up with the melody or that's a song title.
Yeah.
Because I went and watched like every single Big Bang music
What
video.
is it?
And I was just like,
It's
oh,
got like a
that.
dun dun dun. Nope, that's not even going to sound like it when I'm doing it.
My brain always wants to go, wow, fantastic baby, but I know it's not that.
Definitely not that one. It's I guess not lesser known. It's not like Fantastic Baby or I can't think of any of their songs now
Yeah, no worries.
by title. But yeah, really like their stuff. There was a song that T.O.P. and G-Dragon did, and there was like in the video, there's a funny bathroom scene. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I think it's One of a Kind. No,
I don't think so.
I
It sounds okay. So there's a Korean word in it, and it sounds like they're saying stutter, but they're not. Da da da.
they have so many
Da,
music
da, da.
videos.
I know there's
can't-
so many.
They're all blending together for me, to be honest. Yeah, I went. I should have pulled up those notes because I
should have pulled up a track list before I started.
No, it's okay. I caught you off guard. No, it's well, that kind of goes to show the variety of like Big Bang, right? And their reach into K-pop and how they do have a lot of influence as far as like modern K-pop that goes unnoticed, especially with the way that generations shift. You go second gen to third gen to fourth gen, and you don't really know what exactly is inspiring kind of new music, but you know it's there if you've ever heard or watched the Big Bang music video. As far as music today, what are you listening to? What are your favorite playlist songs that you go to?
Let's see, what have we've been listening to a lot of IVE. I love IVE a lot. It's also fun in the house. We tend to like the same groups, but our favorite songs by those groups are always different. So like Jay's really big into Love Dive. I like After Like a lot more. I'm like, oh, that's perfect song. So we've been listening to a lot of that. New Jeans we've been listening to a lot recently. We've definitely been listening to the SEULGI album this week, especially. Who else is on our list a lot right now? I've been listening to Stray Kids like crazy. I didn't pick up on them when they, I guess, first came out as much. But I kind of I feel like I've hit the end of the internet on some of the groups I was looking into. Like, I've seen every video that they have out now, so let me find somebody else to look at. So that's been what I've been playing a lot of recently. Who else? Everybody. Gidget really likes Rolling Quartz a lot. That's, like, her favorite. I would say that's a little different from the usual K-pop, but yeah, she really likes them. We listen to it twice, of course. Who else is still? We've been following the like solo stuff J-Hope did. I love that album too. Super good. We try to like catch new releases every week and kind of see what's new there and figure out what we like.
No, that's incredible that you guys keep up with it week to week and try to get the new releases. I love the fact that there's a joy and there's a family unit like celebration, the way you talk about your experiences with K-pop. A lot of we, as in the three of you, listening to K-pop together. It's incredibly heartwarming, to be honest. I'm just like very amazed that you guys are bonding so close over things that are current in K-pop. Not to say that there's a generational gap, but the fact that like, you know, you're at one point in your life and you have a child who is growing up into going to eventually be in kindergarten. Like they're not even just not in kindergarten yet. So
Yeah.
I think that's just a great bridge between family members and keeping you guys really tight. As far as your relationship with Jay and music, kind of take me through it. What was the first meeting and how did that kind of grow because of your love of music and going out to shows together?
So our very first date, we met online, by the way. So it was like a OkCupid um, thing. This was before Tinder. That wasn't a thing. So he had messaged and was like, "Hey, let's hang out or whatever." And I was like, "Who is this guy? He's way too young. He's like 4 years younger than me." But I went over to his house because I guess I have no fear of being chopped up or something. So I went over to his house and we kind of like hung out and I think we watched like a horror movie or something. It wasn't until like 3 years later that he finally admitted he hates horror movies. So he duped me on that. But we also at the we were just kind of playing music for each other that first date even, and I was like, okay, this is great because music is so important to my life. Like just having music around at all times, super important. So it was cool that that was something we did from the very beginning was share different music, and we had like we have some overlap in some of the stuff we like, but we had very different music backgrounds of what we were listening to, so we always had something new to show each other. And I went to concerts all the time, all the time. I was a manager at Hot Topic for 12 years. So music was just a big part of my everyday life, and I would go to a concert almost, once a week, twice a week, just whatever I could find, whatever was in the area. So that was definitely one of the activities we started doing early on when we were dating, is like, all right, let's go to all these shows together. So yeah, music's always been around, super important. And I think that's also part of why I latched onto K-pop so quickly, was because when I was working at Hot Topic and we would have new releases every Tuesday, and I had to like make sure I was aware of what it was so I could talk to the customers about it and recommend things. Once I moved to a desk job where I didn't have that, I really missed having that music exposure, and I didn't know how to like stay as current on it when it wasn't being fed to me with a list every week of here's your new releases. And it took too much time to try to keep up with, doing my own investigations. And I had so many genres I listened to, so it was just overwhelming for me. But when we started listening to K-pop, it was like, okay, well, let me just see what new releases are coming up this week. So I was able to get back into that like constant new feed of music, which was really cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, it does seem like you have a very eclectic palette for music and just all the things you've experienced. Yeah, Jay went into great detail of the types of shows that you guys have been to. I am super jealous. And the fact that you guys have definitely grown together with all your musical experiences, and have grown together with the SojuTalk podcast, serving two purposes, it seems. One, to grow this amazing, beautiful pairing that you guys have, as well as introducing you to all the new music from every single week. So take me through those first few episodes, finding the show, and then listening to the episodes together with Jay. I've never listened to an episode with another person side by side. What's that like? And were you guys kind of participating together throughout the conversations with Dagorn and Anita?
Yeah, we have to hit pause a lot. Sometimes we'll kind of just like, if it's something quick we're trying to say, just spit it out while the podcast's still playing. But a lot of times, if it's longer, we'll have to reach over and hit pause, so that we can talk about it more at length. And it's really, oh, we love it because, again, we tend to overall kind of like the same things, but maybe come at it from a different way, or sometimes we don't like the same thing. So it's interesting to hear other people's takes on the songs at the same time. We get kind of a round look at like, oh, okay, yeah, they're backing me up on this one, or like, oh, I always disagree with them on that one. So that was I don't know how he found it, but he found it. I probably read it.
I think Jen
Probably read it.
mentioned just luck of the Spotify algorithm, just punching in
Oh,
K-pop podcasts and top of the list, SojuTalk.
that's awesome.
That's
The
yeah,
algorithms are just saving us for K-pop over here.
absolutely yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
so it was one of the first like longer trips we'd had where it was just us in the car without Gidgen. He was like, "Oh, let's put this on because why not?" Um, And I was like, oh, this is great. So we can hear other people talking about the new music. And, you know, because we're so algorithm based of whatever just happens to play next year, there's a lot of groups that maybe we wouldn't have heard about without doing a deeper intentional dive. So that's been really cool too. Like, usually, I would say most weeks there's at least one group or artist that I'm like, I don't know who that is. So we'll look up the video when we see that it's going to be reviewed. Um, so that's been really neat. So we can hear about some more people and not just listen to the same 10 and 20 groups.
Has there ever been what's your most memorable point of friction between the way that you and Jay, or you and Jay both kind of agreed or disagreed with the crew's takes on a song?
Oh, that was easy for me. That definitely G Idol Tomboy.
Take me through it. What was the tomboy of it all, of why you disagreed?
So I think Jay was more on board with the crew on that one. They were like, I don't know. I think they were a little harsher on that one than maybe they would have come back around to reviewing later. Whereas I was like, I don't know. This is a really catchy song. It's a good song, and I know there was some talk about some of the lyrics in it with the like ping pong part of it. I was like, no, that makes total sense. Like the back and forth. You don't want to go do the back and forth. And I get that it's also potentially a reference to the song Ping Pong as well. But I was like, I think they're being a little harsh. I think this one's good. This one's a keeper, and I'm just saying I was right because
I was just gonna say, I think you came out the queen of this mountain, of the fight for the I don't know, Mount Olympus of K-pop right now, because Tomboy was like 8 months out of this year, of just like constant exposure on the charts, on every variety show, every TikTok. I'm somewhere in the middle, in the sense that I enjoyed the song. It wasn't a song I went back to, but I enjoyed it progressively more because I was so exposed to it throughout the entire year. And G Idol is a group I like. I'm definitely fond of them. I know all the members quite well from Queendom, and it was just so familiar that even though my initial response was, all right, it's a kind of a punk rock song that does a G Idol thing, but I didn't feel like it had that punch. But it was very intentionally cut that way. So then when you ingest it 10 seconds at a time, thanks to TikTok, it's just so addictive. And I'm just like, I can't get it out of my head. I know the dance forever. And it's just like, okay, I see what you did. So I do appreciate that song. Historically, right? I think when you kind of zoom out and you're like, oh yeah, months down the line, years down the line, we're just like, oh yeah, this was a pretty important touch point as far as 2022's identity with music. So
more important than how it did in all the music shows and stuff, backing me up. Gidget loves that song, so
that is the ultimate.
I won that battle.
Yes, yeah. that is the final conclusion. Gidget has final say, so she is the supreme chancellor of all such things in K-pop. We will appoint her that. All right, want to jump into it? Let's talk about some K-pop, some brand new music. All right, so we're going to talk about SEULGI with 28 Reasons. The album dropped. That's SEULGI's solo debut. The single, the lead track is 28 Reasons, released on August 4th. SEULGI is my favorite member of Red Velvet. Red Velvet, I would say, is my favorite K-pop girl group. I've struggled with this for quite some time. It was Blackpink for a long time. Twice was always there because they were just so relatable, easy to listen to, so much fun and bubbly. But I think as I've kind of lived with Red Velvet since about 2017, there's a way that the music ages where it's just so completely different than other groups. And SEULGI being my favorite member, her getting a solo here is just everything I ever wanted. What are your first initial thoughts, feelings, reactions to 28 Reasons by SEULGI?
Well, I was really excited that I was doing this week because it made me take a little more time to listen to it on repeat, which was awesome because it's an amazing album. I love it. SEULGI is also Gidget's favorite by far, and
Best
Red Velvet
friends.
Red Velvet's Jay's favorite girl group as well. I don't think I've picked one as a favorite. I just like a lot of them, so I don't have a particular favorite. Um, this is a really good album. I love this album. It is much better than I expected, but also not at all surprising because it's SEULGI and like I think it was the direction I kind of expected her to go in. She just executed it so much better than anybody has a right to.
Yeah, there's this incredible SM polish to the entire album, right? I was talking to Alice in the Red Velvet thread on the server, and we kind of landed on, Taemin kind of leaving a void emotionally, artistically for all of us. And SEULGI just seamlessly fitting right into kind of that genre of dark SM R&B with a little bit of pop flair, but kind of being very creative and kind of exploring a side of creativity that is a bit abstract, but also kind of telling a story. I think 28 Reasons, the song and the album, hit upon that with every different note that plays throughout. Let's get into the title track. So it's a very dark, haunting, and like powerful song, right? I think the visual imagery is very, it fits the song very well, and I think it does a nice job of not being just matte black and just like completely covering the screen. It's like I can't see what's happening. It's a dark concept that's just a little too dark. They do a nice job playing with a little bit of contrast, even though it's primarily a black and white music video, because kind of the fashion kind of pops in a lot of ways. The crew loved the song in a very like calming way, right? They were very like thoughtful. It's like a very clean song. It's very provocative. What are your thoughts of the song and music video itself? And then did you agree or disagree with the crew's reaction this week?
Because I listened to it too many, or not too many times, so many times that I didn't really disagree or agree with the reaction. I just thought there was less of a reaction than I expected. Like I thought, it would have invoked a more passionate response one way or the other. But yeah, so I covered it all right, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I do want to point out that I think they got sidetracked. They sidetracked themselves with I Kissed Your Brother.
Yes, I was gonna say I think it just got thrown off a little bit there.
Rolled into She Kissed Her Brother. No, she did not, Doug. There's no Sweet Home Alabama situation going on here. I think that kind of derailed like themselves. They're so distracted. But let's take it through your kind of analysis of everything that played out. What were some of the musical highlights for you? And then how did that kind of emotionally take you through the experience?
Super good song. I definitely felt in context of the album, it was the most SM sounding song, so it doesn't surprise me that is the one that was the title track there. And the video too had that SM feel. Like they have really crisp, clean cinematic videos with like stark images. Like you could take any second of the video as like a screenshot and it would be just like a beautiful image. So they did a great job. They're always good at that. Good work. There were parts of it that I think part of why I was like, oh, this is very, very SM feeling is it kind of reminded me of INVU a little bit. Not in that it had the same sound, and also that is high praise for me because that's probably my favorite song of the year. It had all the good elements from that too, like really clean vocals, interesting changes, good pacing, good building in the song. I thought the video concept matched with the song's concept really well, and I think made it more understandable. So it wasn't too abstract and hard to follow. It was just a really good song, perfect song. Her voice is what is primarily showcased, and I think that's great. It should be, because that's what should shine through more than like the catchy riff or whatever, like her voice being showcased, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Kind of building off of her tone and her vocal presence in this song and the album. So SEULGI did a Rolling Stones interview. It came out the same time as the album. One of the things that she really highlighted was the fact that it felt lonely doing a solo album after being in a group for her entire career, or even doing the duo with Irene. You know, she has someone else to bounce off of creatively, kind of feed off the energy when you're recording, hearing the song. When it's just her by herself, she felt kind of almost lost in herself because she has to be the one to carry the song. And it wasn't until her musical directors were telling her, oh, you want a little bit more dynamism in the song, so you're going to have to sing different parts differently. And that's just something she never explored before. And I think it definitely shows in 28 Reasons. She goes from this very like dark, like brooding sense to almost like a melodical whimsy throughout the song. A lot of push and pull and back and forth, and very much fitting with the themes of the song, right? In the article, she kind of goes into a deeper dive about the creative process for the album. And I think the underlying thread throughout everything is this kind of back and forth of good and evil, but not in the sense of kind of the way Doug described it as like this religious, like philosophical question. It's more of what are the goods and evils that were that are presented to us in our daily lives that we question, right? Because it's just the questions you have about the choices you make, right? Not necessarily that you're looking to do something evil in the world, but sometimes you do have a darker side about you. How is that manifested? How is that represented? And to me, it's very subtle in this music video. I'm sure there's some SMCU, Kwangya, Black Mamba there somewhere. But I feel like with this music video, it's a lot more subtle, and maybe it's purposefully subtle, right? Where if you are paying attention, if you're looking for it, it's there. Otherwise, it's just a really beautiful art piece with all the different styling. Definitely kind of being provocative with the chains and the leather. And Doug was kind of freaking out about the low-rise jeans and the bathing suit. Doug, that's a bathing suit. It's very in fashion right now. A lot of females are doing that because it's just like this blend of I don't know. It's very alluring. Like it draws your attention, and it almost makes you feel like there's something a little bit more like lingerie risque about it. But to be honest, it's just a bathing suit bottom.
That especially reminded me, maybe because I'm older, but the song has like an R&B vibe to it, and it reminded me a little of like Aaliyah, who also did that exact same kind of styling. So I was like, this makes total sense.
Children, please listen to Aaliyah. Rest in peace. She passed away far too young. But yeah, rock the boat. You guys need to watch that music video. That's like one of the ones I remember in my childhood. Probably shouldn't have watched it in my childhood. That like really etched in my brain. Like, oh, this is very like sexually tense. Like, what am I feeling? I'm only like 9 years old. What's happening? Not that I was, wrestling with those feelings. It was just like, oh, this is a person that I know that's doing this. But it's great. Check it out.
It's definitely kind of that same kind of carryover vibe where like I think this is like a super sexy song, but it's not overtly sexy at the same time, and it's just perfect balance. I really liked that the back and forth, this whole song, push and pull, very much push and pull. So you have like the really clean vocals in the verses, and then when you get to the chorus, it's like just perfect. I love it because she's like singing, like belting out, like you would think it would be this like loud, clear, but it's not, because there's like a vocal distortion on it, which kind of like almost gives it like an underwater or like in a closed room kind of sound, which was, I think, really cool. I think it was really, really smart choice to do that. And it again went back to that theme of like light and dark, which I don't think is, I think it's important to note, I think through the whole album, it's not good versus evil and like good guy, bad guy. It's more like the light and dark aspects that we all innately have in ourselves already, and who you let win that day, or how you learn to balance both. So I thought, perfect.
No, my goodness, maybe you should teach the philosophy class at SojuTalk University. That was quite brilliant. No, I definitely feel the same way about kind of the internal conflict we all face in our everyday lives, right? again, goes back to the choices we make. Sometimes it's clear what is the right choice, what is the wrong choice, but oftentimes there are shades of gray you have to choose in that moment. And what do you allow to win? Like you said, I think that's like a perfect sentiment to kind of encapsulate like the type of story she wants to tell here creatively in this entire album. Anything else on 28 Reasons that you want to like throw at me? I feel like I'm sitting in your lecture now. I'm ready. I'm taking notes. I got my pen.
I'm trying to think about if there was anything else. It's just really perfect song. Do I have any notes or anything? I don't think so. No, because it was just so good.
Well, yeah, you absolutely killed it. Yeah, I was gonna mention the Y2K discussion on the show, but I think you just like took a Uno card and said, "Draw 4 blue" by saying Aaliyah. So that was amazing. That was incredible. Let's move on to track number 2. We're gonna talk about "Dead Man Running." This is a special song on the album because the lyrics are by SEULGI herself. She references that she took a lot of film inspiration while kind of thinking about the concepts of this music video, of this song and this album, specifically the Joker, and kind of the dark villain themes in that movie, or a Joker, and kind of where she wants to at least place herself as far as the ideas within Dead Man Running. How did this song hit you? And what are your thoughts on this a little bit more boisterous song? I think there's a little bit more energy in this one compared to 28 Reasons.
This is my favorite album on the track, or on the favorite track on the album. So I was really surprised when I saw that this was the one that she did, the most lyrical writing on. This one, yeah, I think is the strongest song. I get why 28 Reasons was the title track. It definitely fits more. I think it's more accessible for, everybody who's used to hearing her within Red Velvet, so that makes sense. But I think this is the stronger song. It's so good. Perfect pacing. I don't even, all of it, the way the song built, it didn't follow the same formula I was expecting as far as like the song structure. It's nothing crazy to it. I guess it might just be the difference of a group versus a solo. So like group, you would have a different kind of dynamic and build up in the song. But I just thought this one was perfect. It definitely has the best energy. I think it sticks with you a lot longer. Good track.
Yeah, incredibly powerful in the maturity of the song, right? I think that just the title itself, Dead Man Running, and kind of the ways it's used in past pieces of art, right? And how she is very much in control of the song. What comes to mind is Adele in this genre. I wouldn't say this song specifically is an Adele song, but I think this is the type of music that Adele would do, right? Where she talks about like her personal experiences and lets her heart bleed into the music, right? So that's where I kind of like draw a very similar like process in the way that this song was developed with the way that SEULGI talked about it. But yeah, I think this is kind of an incredible like follow up to the title track, right? A very different song from track number 1. Track number 1 is a very SM general audience friendly. This sound. Dead Man Running is almost a Western pop song in a lot of ways. So it does a really nice job of showcasing that for SEULGI, who, again, shout out to her writing the lyrics. There are a lot of very deeply emotionally connective things that she says in this song, and I'm just kind of amazed that she was able to kind of have the freedom to do that. Right? Anything else you want to say about Dead Man Running?
This is the song that starts out with her talking about like looking at herself in the mirror, like having like a blank face, and I was like, this is just very evocative phrasing. Like you can feel that moment right there. And this song I think had a great push pull as well. Like it was like kind of minimalistic in the verses, and then like all out for the chorus. So I thought that was really good too. yeah, I thought the lyric writing was very strong in this one.
Really big orchestral feel to certain parts of the song, while also toning down to really let you sink into the emotions. Yeah, no, amazing song. I would love to see this live. Yeah, great choice for your favorite song. All right, track number 3, we're gonna go to Bad Boy, Sad Boy. I hope that's right.
It's
Bad Boy, Sad
Bad
Girl.
Boy, Sad Girl. Yes.
I'm looking at this like that is not the title. I like this song. Bad Boy, Sad Girl featuring B.O. This is my favorite track on the album. Maybe. I like vibey R&B music. B.O. is like one of my favorite artists right now, as far as him kind of sneaking his way into a lot of different collaborations and just like popping off with Counting Stars, the song that he released earlier this month with Zico. Really fun song. This right here is just the continuation for that, but with SEULGI being the main character here. Did you get a chance to watch the music video for?
I did watch the music video, and on initial listen of the album, this was my favorite track. So Dead Man Running kind of took over, but this was initially my first choice there. I thought the video was really cute. I love the accessibility of this song. Like, I think anybody could easily relate to it. It's not overly complicated. It's I think a feeling everyone's had at some point. I also liked that it wasn't like a, oh, you stinking guys, you jerks, like it's just a misunderstanding, and like there's no villain in it. So it was like cute and lighthearted, even if it is like a little sad at the same time. And it had a really fun kind of like bouncy beat to it. I thought that was great. The guitar was really plucky. That was fun. Yeah, and I liked where they placed this in the album too, because I think you needed that break coming out of 28 Reasons and Dead Man Running, where you're like, oh my gosh, this is feeling heavy, there's a lot going on. So I think it was a really good place to put this song as well.
Yeah, great palate cleanser, like a vibey song for the third track. I loved everything you said about the relationship in the song. No villain, just a misunderstanding, right? A back and forth of like puppy love, young love. I love the way that it's represented and kind of depicted in the music video. It's very simple. It's shot like in the 90s with 4:3 aspect ratio, but they're in an apartment complex. So right there, that makes me feel like, yeah, I grew up in one of those. And they're literally on different floors because they're not on the same level of what they're trying to communicate with each other. As far as, I like you, I don't know how to tell you. It doesn't mean I don't like you. And SEULGI kind of starting the song, kind of setting you up where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's a jerk. I think the analogy that was kind of used was like low Wi-Fi or weak Wi-Fi. Bad Wi-Fi.
So cool.
So yeah. Right, it's so simple, and it's like, oh, I understand this completely. It's like we have a disconnect here, and then B.O. comes in and goes, I'm so sorry. I like you. I'm an immature boy, and I can't tell you how. And I love it. The entire time they're just walking on the two different floors of the apartment complex in parallel, but never meeting, and it's just a really nice interplay between them. I think the
line about knowing how much she hates cucumbers, like it's so silly, but I thought that was the cutest thing. It's like, oh,
right, very direct. It's so, like you said, accessible. It's just like, this is what it is. We're just trying to figure each other out. Yeah, God, great song. Shout out again to B.O. I think B.O. and SEULGI's voices complement each other really well. I think in this line, SEULGI's singing fairly similar throughout the song, but it does a nice job complementing B.O.'s kind of higher register with the way he sings R&B music. So yeah, just a really fun song. Any other thoughts on Bad Boy, Sad Girl?
I'm not really familiar with him other than the couple collaborations I've caught him on. So after hearing this and liking the song so much, I was like, oh, I'll have to go back in and check out some of the other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Check out his album. It just came out, so you've got some fresh music to look forward to. All right, track number 4, Anywhere But Home. I had some feelings.
This is a good one.
Yeah. I'll let you start. Where are you at with this one? How'd this one hit you?
So this one, my initial feel was, wow, this is the perfect song for doing things when you want to be anywhere but home. This is a get ready to leave the house song, like it's a good vibe for getting ready to go out, or in the car with your friends or family, like driving somewhere. Perfect song for that. So like, it was interesting that the perfect places to listen to it would be when you're going somewhere that's not home. I really liked the disco vibe to this, especially because it didn't have any of the cheese or camp you frequently get with something that has like a little bit of a disco beat to it. So, um, I thought that was really well executed. It's one of those songs you could definitely listen to for like 2 hours and not realize that it had been on loop and it won't start annoying you. I thought it was really good for that.
Yeah, it's got a nice, easy listening quality to it, but I think just a really nice polish to it. Um, I every time a song kind of reminds me of a song that I grew up with, I type the song and then I type sampled this song. Could not find any references, nothing. So this song to me sounds like a sample of Estelle featuring Kanye West, American Boy. And I was just like, oh, I love this beat. It's so familiar, right? We grew up with the sound. I love that song growing up. And it also kind of says the same thing with kind of the traveling, jet setting kind of lifestyle that American Boy was. And then this one kind of like continuously moving, like you said, like you want to be anywhere but home. You want to keep moving, right? You want to like travel, see the world. Um, I really like the modern take or modern use of that sound in this song. Again, it has that disco beat to it. The original is a little bit more jazzy, a little bit more R&B. This adds the disco flair to it in a really nice way where it's like, oh, this is fresh and brand new. It feels like it belongs in 2022. Where if you listen to American Boy, it does have some things that sound like 2009. It's just the way it is because that's when it was made. But yeah, I really like the modern take of that song, and there's something like tantalizing to the fact that they're spiritual successors of each other, intentionally or not. I'm drawing that line. It just feels so connectively the same, and I love it for that reason. Do you remember that song by Estelle and Kanye?
To listen to it again, I vaguely, but like it's not fully hitting as a reference. So I'm gonna have to listen to it again to make sure
No
I'm fully
worries.
understanding it.
Yeah, I remember that song so strongly because at that point in my life, I was the kid who went to dance classes and hip hop classes and tried to learn choreography every week. So that was one of like my first like lessons through my teacher. It's like, here, we're gonna learn this section of this song that I made myself. So that was back in the day when it's like you couldn't just find that on YouTube. There was no other choreography. It was like your teacher had to make a choreography. So if you recorded it, you had it. Otherwise, you really couldn't find it on YouTube. But yeah, that song stuck in my head because I love the way it's used. I love the kind of playfulness, and then it's carried over in this song too. Yeah, check out American Boy. You've heard it. You've definitely heard it. It's one of those where it's on radio play like, everywhere. Still, I would even say like occasionally it'll just pop up on the radio. All right, let's move on now to track number 5. So this is the one that like really makes me question if maybe I love this song more than any other song on the album. It's Los Angeles. This one plays with a bunch of genres. It's just like, what does it start with? It's like, I don't really know. It's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. So to me, I kind of felt like there was a bit of Florence and the Machine to it, where it has like that indie rock, but it flips right into like this EDM sound. So it's like, oh, this is what Florence and the Machine was remixed as in 2014. How did this song hit you as far as being an EDM song that has a lot of tropes from the mid 2010s, and yet I feel like fits perfectly in 2022?
Actually, this was like the one I had the hardest time getting into. But it's definitely grown on me through more listens. So if you're out there and you're like, I don't know about this one, give it a couple more listens so you can take it in. And maybe it is because of all the different mixing of genres within there. I was with the EDM, I was placing it a little earlier actually, like earlier to not early 2000s, but like early like 2008 to or 2004, 2008 kind of era, because it didn't have that like crazy, Skrillex, scratchy, crazy sound going on or anything. It just had that like beat where you might want to get out a glow stick. And I thought it mixed perfectly in this song too. I really this one's grown on me. I also really liked the lyrics of this one. And especially in the beginning, because there were so many references to like morning and the light and the feeling of the morning. And I was like, okay, well, morning is like, it's a fresh start. It's a new day. And I think that was like the whole point of the song, was kind of navigating a new space as a new person and kind of finding your way and not hating it. It's just being new. So I thought that was really interesting.
It does have a few allusions to a California coast and sunrise, sunset being in Los Angeles, right? Because I feel like those are very popular sights and sounds for a lot of international folks who come visit, whether that's Santa Monica Beach or Hollywood Sign. It's like you have both ends of the spectrum between starting your day and ending your day, right? And it does play really well into this song as well. I love what you said about 2008 house music. I would have said that, but I wanted to tie in Florence and the Machine, and I know she wasn't popular being remixed until like a little bit later in 2010s, but it does definitely have more classical big room house sound than it does like that festival rave EDM sound, right? This is a bit darker, a bit underground, almost kind of the really grimy house rooms. That's like, oh yeah, I remember these rooms. Yeah, no, it's very eerie, and there's something about this album that is an album out of time for me, where I know SEULGI is a present day person in 2022, but I feel like she could have existed at any point in the past 20 years, and these songs represent that so well in a way that feels fresh and new. And it's just like, man, she got a good team around her, and she kills it as a performer, as an overall talent, as a wonderful, wonderful one. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Los Angeles?
Not specifically this one, but kind of going off that. When I was listening to this album, I always, when I listen to something, pull references or compare to other songs, not in the like, oh, they ripped this or the sounds just like that. Just like my brain likes to put things in little categories, and almost all the references I were pulling were a lot older, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, I think we pulled up a couple here where the EDM's a little older, the Aaliyah reference, like the next song I also had an earlier like reference in my brain. So but like you said, it all sounded fresh. None of it sounded dated. I think it just took some of the best sounds from the past and like found a way to make it relevant today, and not just a redoing of those sounds, but like incorporating them in the sounds today.
Yeah, well said. Man, Professor Jess, just I'll front row of your class. I'm not in the back. I'm not a slacker. Front row taking notes. Let's get into track 6. So it's titled Crown. It's got a bit of a mysterious sound to it. It's definitely poppy, but all the confidence in the world. Professor Jess, please get into it. What are your thoughts on Crown?
This one was really cool and a really good way to end it, because it, I think, was the most unexpected of the tracks on here for me. My reference I was pulling from this, and again, it doesn't sound like it, but it kind of reminded me of when I was listening to Tori Amos's Tales from the Choir Girl Hotel. Again, much older. But that album kind of did some of the same things. It was Tori Amos, but she was exploring a bunch of different genres and incorporating maybe some unexpected sounds and vocals. And the vocals weren't necessarily like what you would think, like, oh, this is a showcase vocal styling, or this sounds really pretty. Like, some of the sounds sounded more jarring, but in like a beautiful way. And I think this track had some of those. It was like, oh, that's not a vocal strain, but like, just different tones and sounds and ways she was using her voice that I thought were really neat.
Yeah.
And I thought being such a varied album, but still very cohesive, this was like a good ending track, kind of pulling all of that together.
Yeah, absolutely. You killed it. I don't have very much to add aside from it does a nice job kind of bookending her vocal style between 28 Reasons and Crown. Crown also feeling like it's metaphorically like the last article of clothing placed on the head of the queen of the moment, which is SEULGI, which is oh man, there's a lot of artistic layers with kind of the symbolism between the title, lyrics, song structure, and the way she sings, right? So very much wrapped up really well in this song. She does have a little bit more power in this song, but again, mirroring some of the power choices that she makes in 28 Reasons that are a little bit more subtle, pulling it into this song. So yeah, great album. Any closing thoughts on the whole package, and just where are you at with it after kind of analyzing and decompressing about SEULGI and her solo debut?
I thought this was such a good cohesive album. I was a little worried coming into this where we're going to talk about the whole album because it has such a good flow that I was afraid I would mix songs or start thinking about the wrong song, because it has such a good flow that you can just move from one song to the other without it being too jarring at all. I really loved that there was like this light dark theme through it. I If I could say anything that would be just a cherry on top is if, hey, SEULGI, do it again, but next time make it a whole album where it's a storytelling album. Like each track does move into it, like it's one big story. I love when artists do that. That is like always my favorite. Very hard to do, but that would be cool. But I thought there were aspects of that were achieved, or maybe I was just putting it in there because I was kind of wanting it to. Like ending with Crown to me seemed like pulling all the themes, that light dark that she had been referencing, and being like, okay, well, putting it all together makes me a better, stronger person. So I've learned to embrace both and put on the crown.
There's almost a mythical
So
storytelling to the way that this album plays out, right? Where it's very tip of the iceberg, a lot of very familiar type lyrics and themes that we've kind of all experienced in other parts of storytelling, but not super explicit, right? Nothing that like, oh, she's trying to say like her love life is in shambles and she's coming out of it another way. No, it's kind of a lighter take on it with the song with Bio, or kind of Los Angeles and what that means as far as the night and being on the West Coast and having that kind of warmer flair to your musical creations, right? And then kind of ending with Crown. So a lot of subtlety, I think, is a strength of this album. Very curious if she kind of does lean into perhaps a bit of a more direct line of storytelling in the future. I think we all kind of think Taeyeon is the bar there, especially with her album this past year. So many songs, so many like very like deeply emotional. It's like, oh, she's going through some stuff with these songs. And maybe that's kind of the trajectory that SEULGI will get into. Although, if I had my preference, my trajectory is just she's the female Taemin, and we get some crazy, weird, fashion forward, abstract. I don't know what's happening, but I know she's dancing and she's singing good stuff. So that's where I would love SEULGI to be, eventually at some point. All right. Moving into closing thoughts now. Jess, you've been an amazing guest. I always like to look forward a bit with all my guests. So, how does the rest of your 2022 look like? We are in the midst of autumn, right in the middle of October. It's getting cooler-ish, depending on where you are in the world, in the United States. What are you looking forward to, and kind of what have been your favorite things of this time of the year, this season?
this is my favorite time of the year for so many reasons. I do federal sales for work, and the government fiscal year ends September 30th. So going up to September 30th is just like this month and a half long Black Friday frenzy worth level of work, and it is exhausting. So we've moved past that already. So now I'm in my more chill work part of the year, which makes everything in life more chill. My birthday is coming up at the end of October, then Jay's is in November, so that's always fun. Halloween is the biggest holiday in this house, so
So I've
we're
heard. So
super
I've heard.
stoked. Yeah. Um, so yeah, it's the best part of the year. The end of the year is always our favorite.
You are just in your bag right now. You just like living life. This is all the best things. For work today, I had to come up with the icebreaker for a meeting. I had a great one, by the way, so I'm going to throw it to you. What is your favorite autumn seasonal either food or drink?
Ooh, hard. I'm gonna go pumpkin pie because I make the best pumpkin pie.
You know, you say this, and then I cannot have it to verify.
Oh no.
I would love to try and confirm the fact that, yes, I can tell that you probably do make an amazing, delicious pumpkin pie. No,
It's my grandma's pie crust recipe. That's what makes it. Because we all know that usually if you get a pumpkin pie, you eat the filling and the pie crust is cardboard and gross. But nope, it's got great crust too.
You are doing autumn the best out of everyone ever. Great answer. Amazing. Homemade, very crafty. For me, it is not pumpkin spice latte, although I've had probably far too many so far. I like warm cider. It's a hot, like spiced cider, either kind of the Trader Joe's, like easy to make, pop it on, throw it into the stovetop, or just get your own cider and then infuse it with some cinnamon, a little bit of sugar, brown sugar, and then ginger is kind of how I twist mine up a little bit as far as like giving it a little bit extra flavor. So all this also is in complement to shots and shots of whiskey to make it a whiskey spiced hot cider. So yeah, I want that now. I cannot think. Oh, we're ending the show, right? Or eventually, yeah. No, Jess, this was an incredible conversation. I'm so glad I had you on. We got the full scope of your origin story with Jay. Beautiful relationship that you guys have, and beautiful family that you have with Gidget. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Super fun, especially because we don't ever leave our house. So seeing people not the same people that I live with constantly is always a treat.
I'm glad that means a lot. That means a lot. And I've always wanted this show to be about connecting with people, putting a voice to the text that we read on screen, or perhaps putting a face to all the thoughts and opinions we have on the internet. So yeah, no, I am very gracious that you are here to grace us with your presence, and it was very memorable and great conversation. So yeah, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's sign out. Thank you everyone for listening to the Soju Sessions on the Soju Talk Nation podcast feed. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and continue the conversation on the Soju Talk K-pop podcast Discord. For Jess, I'm Crispy, and this has been the Soju Sessions.